Will we please call the roll?
Trustee Kildee.
Here.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
Trustee Morgan.
Here.
President Pro Tem Craven.
Here.
President Wunsch.
Here. Mr. Morgan, will you lead us in the flag salute?
Yes, everyone please stand. Place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any amendments to this agenda?
We have no amendments to the agenda, Mr. President.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone in the chamber who wishes to address the library board on any items that are not on the agenda? Okay, moving on to consent calendar.
Move the approval. Second.
We have a motion to approve and second. No discussion. Please vote. Okay, that passes 5-0. All right, moving on to departmental items. We have the Russell Fischer Business Library report item, and that'll be you, Mr. Petropulos. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, Board. As you've noticed, we're going to go over the Fischer Trust business bequest tonight, and this is in a follow-up to the study session we had at our last council meeting. By way of background, Russell Fischer and his family moved to Ventura County in 1929. He spent about 77 years in the county and was about 16 when he moved here, as far as we can tell. We know that Mr. Fischer was a citrus farmer. His family developed a hilltop ranch in Santa Rosa Valley in the mid-30s, where he lived until the 80s. The 1940 census lists him as living with his parents and his occupation as a farmer. Mr. Fischer spent his retirement years here in Camarillo and passed away in 2006 at the age of 93. To our knowledge, he never married, and we know of no other family members. Mr. Fischer was known as an avid reader and visited the Camarillo Library almost daily. Through his bequest, he became the single largest benefactor to the Ventura County Community Foundation with a gift of $11 million benefiting 5 nonprofits here in California. The beneficiaries included the Camarillo Healthcare District, Camarillo Library, the Ventura County chapter of the American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and the Oddfellow Rebecca Children's Home in Gilroy. The Russell Fischer Fund for the Camarillo Library was established by the Russell Fischer Estate on March 15th in 2006. The amount of the initial bequest was $2,764,149.07, and the funds were to be used only in the business section to purchase books and/or subscriptions, and we'll touch on that a little later. The fund value as of 6/30/2012 was $3,156,337.28. As mentioned previously, distributions occur annually and are set at a maximum of 5% of the fund's 12-quarter rolling average balance. The total accumulated amount available for distribution as of 10/1/12, which is an update from our last meeting, is $652,912. This year's available distribution as of 6/30 was $129,887. Staffs worked with Ventura County Community Foundation, the VCCF, to define Mr. Fischer's vision for the business collection. And as you know, the face of libraries have changed over the years, and a library is no longer just books and periodicals. It requires much more than that to be successful today. So through a number of meetings and some back and forth dialogue with the VCCF board, as well as the CEO, Mr. Ralston, who will be here with us tonight, Our city librarian, Barbara Wolfe, and the city staff were able to expand the vision of Mr. Fisher's bequest to include a business collection that'll have new reference titles, circulation books, audio books on CD, e-books, DVDs, magazines, newspapers, and electronic databases. The proposed location for the collection is on the second floor in the adult services area. And with that, I'll ask Mrs. Wolfe to give you some of the highlights.
Well, you can tell I'm very eager coming up to the podium before I was actually called on. This is a very exciting opportunity for the library. We will be moving the reference books, which you see here at the very front of this picture is the reference desk, where people come up and ask questions of our reference librarians. And behind in those three main stacks there are our current reference collection. That will be relocated. That collection is not as popular today as most of those, the information there is available online. So we will be able to highlight it in the center of the adult area of the library. We have a very exciting vision for this collection. We've been meeting, as Mr. Petropulos mentioned, we've been meeting with or have meetings scheduled with the EDCVC, thank you, the SBDC, the WIB, I can tell you what those are if you need to know, the chamber, the local chamber, as well as the CMTC, which is the California Manufacturing and Technology Group. And they are also very excited to hear about this resource that will be available and are giving us some very good input on what we can do to ensure that A, there's no duplication of business efforts in the area, and that we do use the resources to the very best advantage. The CMTC has actually offered to conduct a survey of their past and current customers in the manufacturing sector to see, to actually ask the businesses what they're interested in. So our vision includes an inventory of reference titles, books that will circulate, audiobooks on CD, a large portion on electronic books, DVDs, magazines, newspapers, and of course electronic databases, which is what they're supremely interested in. We are going to include equipment to be able to videotape some of the seminars and workshops that the various organizations are conducting with their approval, of course, so that these items can be archived and available online when businesses need them 24/7. We also include some tablets, something such as an iPad or a notepad that will be preloaded with business resource. And then, of course, our business specialists will be able to go out into the community with those and sit down with our local business community to conduct outreach, assist with training and research, identifying areas of local interest, develop materials to promote the collection, and that person will also be able to train. For example, the EDCVC is interested in having their 20 or 30 consultants trained on how to access these databases. So once they have this information, they will be able to then train the actual business users in Camarillo. So we hope to really add some value to the doing business in Camarillo.
The proposed budget is $256,000 for the collection and the full-time business specialist, and an additional $32,000 for education and outreach for the first year total of $288,000. We're requesting $300,000 for the first year to cover any contingency costs that may come up as we start up. We can draw down the full allocation of the $652,900 if so desired. However, staff would like the opportunity to ascertain the cost benefits, and benefits of full versus partial distribution for the coming year. This slide assumes 2% interest-only income and does not include the annual distribution. And as you can see, even without the additional distributions, the current available funds could sustain the program through 2020. This next slide shows a very conservative interest rate of 2% on the left to the year 2020 and a 4% rate to 2020 on the right. Again, demonstrating even with minimal interest and no adjustments to the program or outside funding coming in, that we could go on as is for a very long time. With a moderate rate of return, as is shown on the right, by year 2, we're actually earning more than we're spending on the program, and we could look for additional opportunities to expand. And again, this interest was calculated on an average fund balance year to year, so it is not 100% accurate. In other words, you're not going to be able to multiply the 2868 by 4% and come up with the 120. We average that out because we won't distribute those funds the day they come in, so there'll be some additional interest earnings as they're distributed. So in summary, we feel we have a sustainable budget. We have the ability to scale the program to revenues generated by the Fischer Trust and other sources. We feel that we definitely have a benefit to the community, and so tonight we're seeking approval to create the Russell Fischer Business Library at the City of Camarillo Public Library, and to have you approve the budget and authorize a distribution from the VCCF. We also tonight have the CEO, Hugh Ralston, here with us, and we'd certainly like to thank him for his support and working with us over these past years to make this library become a reality. And if I could get him to come up and address the board for a moment, we would certainly appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Ralston.
Sure. Happy to do so. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. We are delighted at this proposal and wholeheartedly support the request that has come from the city through the library, believing that it is certainly consistent with the bequest terms that Mr. Fischer established when he distributed his estate to the Community Foundation. So we appreciate the opportunity to have a dialogue with city staff and the library staff to think about the best ways of moving from a series of periodicals and newspapers in the more traditional sense of a business library, and have reviewed this with our program review committee and grants committee, and believe that this actually does move forward his vision of using his funds to support a business library in Camarillo. And we're very excited about the outreach plans to engage some of the other communities organizations, so that it actually becomes a resource not just for the city library, but also a resource for the community. So I'm happy to answer any questions you would have about the fund that was established or the plan, and we are delighted to be able to put this money to work.
Thank you.
Yes, questions of staff and or Mr. Ralston? Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Ralston. And I don't know if it's directed to you or Richard, but we have funds for about 8 years to keep this viable. Is that right? Is that going to eat up all of the, what is it, the 2.7? Or is it
No.
kind of amortized over?
The projections are that the current amount that's available could be exhausted in 8 years. But at the rate of the endowment, the second chart indicated that there's a self-sustaining element, that there would be enough distributed, assuming markets behave, which is a large assumption, to sustain that level of programming and programming support in the future. And one of the things that we really appreciated was that the city and library said, we recognize their resources, let's roll this thing out over a couple of years to take advantage of the cushion, but we're not going to spend everything today and come back next year. So if under the current amount that's eligible for distributions, there's an 8-year plan that could be sustained for 8 years before you make any cut in programs. But the expectation of ongoing earnings from the endowment would support that well beyond that.
Good. I think that's very wise. Yeah.
Any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ralston.
Yeah, the endowment will be there.
Okay.
4%, it'll be there forever. It's gross.
Can I make a?
Yes.
I was going to say, I support this, but I would like to know if we could have a report at the end of a year, not a year from now, but a year from when it's rolled out, so that, could you go back a couple of slides? Back, yeah, so that maybe we'll have some kind of an idea of how things are working out with the business specialists, the video equipment, and if people are actually using this kind of thing, or if there's, something else that's needed.
Absolutely, and as you know, we'll be coming forward every year to get allocation for budget, so you'll get full reports and we'll know exactly where we are. And obviously, these are startup costs on this slide of the 288. It scales down as we go forward.
Yeah, I
And
understand that, but I didn't want just a staff recommendation, say a year from budget time. I wanted some kind of a report to us telling
Absolutely.
us how some of these things are.
Absolutely.
I think a report is wise, and I'm sure that they've probably already had that in mind, because there
Yeah.
will be some changes along. They've already had one meeting with EDCVC, which I attended, and database, they're very excited because they'll be able to get some databases that are fairly expensive and that they don't really have access to, that are really the nuts and bolts of business stuff. So, and I think in meeting with everyone else, that they'll get this whole package together, and then certainly we want to eliminate duplication, but really be able to cover the whole spectrum of databases and information that businesses need. So I think I'd like to commend staff on the work they've already done and what they're doing. So it's going to be very, very exciting. And besides a report a year from now too, hopefully that we'll get updated reports as we go along.
I was just going to mention that we'll be reporting as we do on
good,
the other
because,
library activities as well.
Because I'd like, because I won't be in those, but I think the council will be, and they'll be really into it. I think it's exciting, and as a matter of fact, EDCVC is just, they're out of their minds. They're just thinking that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So it will really complement what they're doing, and they will be complementing what we're doing. So it's great. Yes, Mr. Moore.
This is I hate that word sustainability. That word can be thrown at a lot of different things, and I hate these are one of those catchwords. Every now and then some come out, but this is a sustainable program. It's got it built into it, and so I think a lot of people from throughout the county will use this program. I mean this service, and so we're very lucky, and it'll be a self-sustaining thing. Which I think, if every program we did was self-sustaining all the time, we'd be in great shape. But this is perfect, and I thank the staff for putting this together. We're lucky.
Miss McDonald, and I'll get to you, Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had your, go ahead.
Just a comment before a motion. There's been a lot of talk on the street about what the city's doing for business, and this, among a lot of other things, that is something that's really needed. It's going to be a wonderful addition to the business community in our city, and especially the small business community. So we really talk up, the benefits of this.
Good.
I too just want to echo our thanks to all of you, whoever came up with the idea of the kind of the full service, just not a bunch of books on a shelf. We really congratulate you. I think you've done a great job of thinking ahead. I'm sure you'll fine tune it as you get going, because you can't think of everything up front, but thank you very much. I think on behalf of the city and the community, we really want to thank Mr. Fischer. I think he would be very happy. Which brings up my other thought, when I see that picture of him up there, will we have his picture somewhere there to recognize him? I know we did the books and all that, but
We
this is
certainly
kind of
can.
special.
We certainly can.
I
This
think-
was the only picture we were able
I
to
like that picture.
come up with, but we'll certainly do some homework and maybe Mr. Ralston can help us with that, and we'll see if we can't
Picture.
can't do something and get it
I
in a
think
prominent
he-
place.
I
Yes.
think he deserves it, a picture, don't you, in that section? I think
Be a nice gesture.
it would be to everyone to, when they go in there, to remember who thought ahead and who really, and how much he realized how important business was. And
Somebody
just,
who recognized a need and was able to do
and
something
able to do
about it.
something about it,
kidding.
absolutely. So, thank you all. It's exciting. Can't wait to, I'm assuming we'll have some kind of grand opening where we get to all go and see what's a little show and tell and show us what you got.
We sure will.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, may I have a suggested action motion here?
I will move to accept the Russell Fischer Trust Fund donation, authorize the creation of the Russell Fischer Business Library Collection at the Camarillo Public Library, direct staff to submit a budget and request of fund distribution in the amount of $300,000 from the Ventura County Community Foundation for the period of 1 October 12 through 30 September 13, and recommend to the City Council to authorize an appropriation in the amount of $300,000 to the Library Special Revenue Fund.
Second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Can
If
we
there's
third it and fourth it?
Yeah.
No further discussion,
And
please
this is
vote.
a good one.
It is a good one.
Not often
I
you
might
get
also, if I could, Mr. President,
Yes.
remind you that there's a follow-up item on the council for the appropriate appropriation on the consent calendar.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
very good. All right, moving on, we have no further items, comments from staff.
We have no comments.
All right, comments from board members. Okay, you've made them all.
We made them all.
We have no public hearing items, so we will stand in adjournment.
Will the Cameron Sanitary District please come to order? Let the record reflect that all members of the Sanitary District are present. Do we have any amendments to agenda?
We have no amendments.
No amendments to agenda? Any public comments this evening? Sanitary Board District. Seeing none, we'll move to the consent calendar.
Move the approval?
Second.
The motion is second. Any other comments? Please vote. That motion passes 5-0. We have no departmental items, so I guess there's nothing we have left on the agenda, except comments from our board members. None? None?
Everybody did.
This is what happens when your chief's gone.
I guess I do have a comment. I don't
Sure.
know if I was the only one who received it because I'm on a couple of CASA committees, but the CASA main office has now moved. In August, they hired Bobby Larson to be the new executive director, and Catherine Smith, I don't know what she is. She's the public relations person now, I guess. I can't remember her title, but I do know that her position has changed quite a bit. And with the change, they have moved out of Catherine's office. They're still in the same building, but on the 9th floor instead of the top floor.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, we will adjourn.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Camarillo City Council to order and let the record reflect that all council members are present. Do we have any amendments to this agenda?
We do have a recommended amendment on page 4 of your agenda. Roman numeral 6, Public Works, item B. The professional services agreement for Metrolink pedestrian undercrossing. We'd like to pull that from the agenda or remove it.
Okay. Which one? B.
Which one was that?
B.
B?
6B.
6B.
Metrolink?
Yeah.
Full completely?
To be
Yes.
returned at another time to be determined.
Hopefully.
Anything else?
That's all we
Mr.
have.
Kildee?
I just have one, it's on the consent.
Uh-huh.
Item K, it's just a question I have.
So you want us to pull it, or you just want to ask it when we get to
I-
the consent?
Yeah, why don't we wait till the consent, I can
Okay.
just ask it, it doesn't have to be
Okay,
pulled.
sounds good. Anything else? Okay. Move on then. We will move to the consent calendar, and we will let Mr. Kildee,
Yeah,
Ask the
Tom, on
question.
item K, the overlay. My question is this is a repair. What is, I'm not sure if that's, I'm not sure what that is. In other words, are we repairing something that needs to be repaired, obviously, or is this part of an ongoing operation out in that area?
This is really an infill project that will address a short segment of Ponderosa that has kind of fallen between two other projects. The Springville interchange included an extension, a new road extending Ponderosa Drive. And as we matched or met the old portion of Ponderosa Drive, we continued to pave a little bit east of there just to blend the two roads together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's at the west end of Ponderosa. I'm talking about the segment now west of Las Posas. And then we have a project that's coming in later to build some apartments south of Ponderosa, and that's closer to Las Posas. It's still west of Las Posas, but getting closer to the to where the development is basically just ended by the farm fields on the south side of Ponderosa. That will be a project that hopefully will move forward soon into next year. And they are required to widen Ponderosa from its current 2 lanes to 4 lanes. So that section of road, while it's got potholes and is in some disrepair, will be a completely new road once it's reconstructed. So then that project will continue to somewhat to the west on Ponderosa towards the Palm Colony condominium area, and then end at that point where that apartment project ends and the improvements to Ponderosa ends, and then where we ended the construction with the Springville interchange, there's a short segment in between that neither project will cover. When we updated our traffic mitigation fee program last year, we recognized that from time to time these kind of gaps occur between our projects and development projects, and so we actually in the traffic mitigation fee program included a project for paving. This is exactly the kind of scenario that we had in mind. And so that's what's proposed in your item, is to use traffic mitigation fees to cover the cost for this additional paving and fill in the gap.
So it'll just be consistent with what the proposal will be in the future when we do get that new building.
Exactly. The idea being that when it's all finished, Ponderosa from Las Posas west will all have new pavement. And it'll be, slight differences in the grayness because they won't be done at the same time, but hardly noticeable.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Move the approval of the consent calendar.
Second?
A motion, and we have a second. Any further discussion? Not, please vote. And that does pass unanimously. Moving on to Public Works. This is a professional service agreement, LS 10-01, Central Interchange Landscaping Project. Assume that is Mr. Fox as well.
Yes, Your Honor, just a moment while we bring up the, we have a PowerPoint presentation to assist the presentation. Should actually have an icon. Just minimize that.
Richard left the room, didn't he?
Yeah, try to, yeah, it should be on the comment. Yeah, apologize. I had talked to Richard earlier to have this item noted, and then unfortunately we weren't prepared for him not to be here. It should be pretty quick. If not, I should be able to fairly easily walk through the presentation without the photos. It's just nice to be able to
Is he
have
out in the
something to look
lobby?
at.
Shall we call him?
At this point, we know where to find it. It'll just take a minute to get to it.
Anyone want to tell a joke or story? How was your day?
Anything happened yesterday or today?
They took a picture of Central Avenue and broke the camera.
Yeah.
We've been out inspecting all the digger trucks in the center of the street.
Oh, I've had, Trevor loves all those trucks.
He found a digger truck hat, as he called it. Where's
He
it
has a
at?
hard hat now?
With the city logo on it from the library
Very good.
groundbreaking. There he is.
We've missed you.
But we have it. We're just now trying to get the
Ah.
projector to work. Thanks. And then I just need the remote.
Oh, I have a question while we're waiting. Is anyone going to the movie at the ranch tomorrow night and the wine tasting?
No.
No.
It'll be a lot of fun.
It's a good movie. I like
Be a
that
lot
movie.
of, yeah, be a lot of fun. Well, I'll represent us.
There are other things going on.
All right, apologize for the slight delay, but we're ready to go. Your Honor, this is a project that's in the capital improvement program for this fiscal year, and that's to begin the process to improve the landscaping at the Central Avenue interchange. The project has two major phases, design and then construction. The item we're going to talk about tonight is really focusing on starting the design process. This is an aerial photo of the Central Interchange. The interchange is our westernmost interchange, which serves as a gateway to the community, and the landscaping is fairly sparse. We do have a number of trees, as you can see from the photo, spread through the interchange. However, the ground cover is, again, very sparse, and in this you can see just how brown the interchange is. The area that we have cross-hatched is the primary scope of where we plan to enhance the landscaping, and the type and quality of landscaping will depend as we start the design process. But included with the project not just will be enhanced landscaping, but there's also a new monument sign that we're proposing. There was a monument sign, city monument sign west of here, but because it was old and it had been surrounded by fences and other things that were obscuring, we demolished that, recognizing that we would want to find a better location. This is just an example of the location, not necessarily what the sign itself would look like, that shows that from the freeway, the southwest quadrant of the interchange actually serves as a pretty good area to spot the monument sign. So it'll work out that we can bring the electricity and the various infrastructure we need to support the sign with the same work we do for the landscaping. So good opportunity to include that. The project is funded through a federal grant. The grant is for $530,000 that we have to match with 11% local match, so that's included in the CIP. And so the idea would be to design a landscape system that would fit within that budget. And the type of landscaping is something that we want to be really sensitive to the ongoing maintenance cost, because the grant only covers the construction or the capital side. Caltrans requires that any time we enhance a landscape area, we then ultimately have to maintain it ourselves. The state won't maintain it, so we want to have nice looking landscaping, but we want to make sure it's drought tolerant and has a minimal level of maintenance cost associated with it. That's something we'll have the consultants evaluate for us. One of the first, I guess the next step you would be involved in is, if we do go forward with the design, is to bring in a few months to you a study session with some options on design for the landscape to look at, as well as the monument sign. And at that time, we would have some idea of what the maintenance budget would be as well to continue, if we go forward with the project. So again, that would happen probably in the spring of next year. The item before you tonight then is to consider two professional service agreements. One agreement would be for design services, and the consulting firm that we're recommending is Pacific Coast Land Design. They have experience not only in the design of landscaping, but also working with Caltrans to get permits, and that's a big step in this, is in order to be able to do work at the interchange. We don't own the facility. Caltrans would have to give us a permit to work there. And the estimated, or the budget for the design and the permitting process would be just under $65,000. The project would also require some environmental analysis. Because we're using federal funds, we have to follow the NEPA process, which is like CEQA for the state, but for federal it's NEPA. And that usually the feds require some additional studies, not just a standard checklist, but they always have additional work. And Galvin Preservation Associates is the firm we're recommending to do that work. They have a lot of experience with NEPA, freeway-related landscape work, so they're very proficient at this type of project. And their budget for that is just under $22,000. So the item before you tonight is the recommendation is the action to approve both of these contracts. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? I do have one. We don't have to go out to bid for such a thing, so that's not an issue.
Professional services, we're actually not allowed to go out to bid. We have to go through a selection process, and we did prepare requests for proposals and solicited for proposals and reviewed those and made a selection based on qualifications.
Said that wrong. So we did the proposal. Okay, good. My other question has to do with someday, sometime, when that interchange gets redone, will we lose what we've done? Are we doing with that, designing it with the thought in mind that someday that interchange will be widened and?
You would have to expect that most of what we're doing would not be preserved through a major interchange construction project. The idea is that the type of landscaping we're looking at is probably, you would expect it to maybe be a life cycle of 10 years for the types of plants anyhow. So after a period of time, you would be looking to have to replace the irrigation system, have to replace the plants. And I can just about guarantee that that interchange will not be reconstructed within 10 years. It's not a project that the city should be responsible. The central interchange is not a project like Springville, where it's predominantly just serving the community. Central interchange, because Central serves Oxnard, Thousand Oaks, and then connects to the regional freeway system, is really a regional project that Caltrans should be responsible for a majority of those costs. And that won't occur until they start looking at maybe widening the freeway and maybe even a sales tax measure gets approved in Ventura County. Those types of steps are way off in the future. So we're pretty confident that whatever landscape concept we come up with here will probably have even run its life cycle by the time we're ready to consider any changes to the interchange.
Probably.
And federal, I can't see it being Caltrans funding, but federal funding flowing through?
There's a possibility, but very unlikely.
When you first, I'm sorry, Yarn. When you first brought it up, I thought, God, it'd be nice to have all those rocks like we have in the other one, looking real nice. But then thinking about it could be torn up sooner or later, might as well not use the rocks, just do some landscaping.
Right, yeah. And as long as we've thought that through so that we're not putting something in that's, if it really truly has a lifespan, then that would somewhat.
For the budget that we're looking at, it doesn't afford us the opportunity to make it as attractive as Springville with the rocks. That'll be more of just enhanced landscaping and the monument sign.
So it'll be better than mowed weeds.
Correct.
If you can throw in a bunch of those, what do you call those things? Our red flower out here, bougainvilleas. They're easy to care for, drought resistant, and they're colorful.
Yeah, and that's why we propose to do a study session where we can bring some options for you to consider later, and you can certainly provide that feedback at that time as well.
My last question was, our 11% matching funds were just general fund funds?
Yes, I believe so. This isn't the type of project that we would use, for example, traffic mitigation fees. It's not a mitigation fee project, so the general fund is the local match.
Any other questions? Comments?
I'd move to authorize the city manager to execute professional service agreements with Pacific Coast Land Design and Galvin Preservation Associates.
Second the motion.
Incorporated.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not, please vote. And that does pass unanimously. Moving to Community Development Department. We have one item, the City Landscape and Irrigation Guidelines Update for 2012.
Yes, Your Honor. The City Council considered this at your last meeting and requested it be carried over for additional information. One of the pieces of information that you asked for was a red line copy of the changes that are being proposed in the updated set of guidelines. And then in addition, we have a PowerPoint presentation to review some of those particular parts of the changes, such as the landscape irrigation efficiency section, some of the other plant material questions, parkways, and then also we have some samples of the artificial turf for you this evening as well. So what I would like to do would be to introduce Jackie Lee, a planner with the Community Development Department, to run through the PowerPoint and to present this information to you, and then we'll be certainly available for any questions thereafter.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald, council members. I'll just be giving you a brief overview of some of the proposed changes to the updated landscape and irrigation guidelines. So these guidelines were last updated in 1992 in response to state mandates to incorporate drought-tolerant landscaping and water conservation measures, and are used to guide in the preparation of landscape and irrigation plans. The city has a water-efficient landscape ordinance, which requires applicants to submit water budget calculations. The city also recently updated the community design element of the general plan, which includes sustainable design practices and water-efficient irrigation techniques. The update to the landscape and irrigation guidelines would be the next layer in updating city policies to ensure compliance with city and state water conservation measures. After that, the next step would be to look at our ordinance requirements and amending our code to reflect the updated policies and guidelines. So the format of the updated landscape and irrigation guidelines would generally remain the same as the existing document. Some of the specific changes that are proposed include providing limits on the amount of paved surfaces that would be allowed within front yards for single-family residences. The paved surfaces would be limited to only those areas utilized for driveways, RV parking and access, and walkways as shown in the table below on the screen. You can see based on the size of the residential lot, they would have certain percentages of their front yard that can be paved over. So the intent of this is to prevent somebody from just concreting or paving over their entire front yard. And there are different percentages for standard rectangular lots, and then there's a little bit more higher percentage for pie-shaped lots. And this is just an example of a house in Camarillo where it would comply with these guidelines. As you can see, it does have a 3-car garage plus the RV parking and access, that area being concrete. And this would actually comply with our code, and they do have proper amount of landscaping along with that. The next section that has been included it pertains to artificial turf. And several homeowners in the community have inquired about artificial turf and have asked whether there's any requirements as far as providing for the artificial turf in their front yards, just as a chance for them to reduce their water usage and day-to-day maintenance. The landscape guidelines would propose allowing for limited use of artificial turf, but it would require that livable plant material be utilized in conjunction with the artificial turf. So a landscape plan would be required for review and approval by the Community Development Department prior to installation. There are certain guidelines, as you could see on the screen, where we would limit the artificial turf to 50% of the yard. The remaining of that area would have to consist of livable plant material. The artificial turf would have to be kept in good repair, free of weeds, debris, holes, and ripples. It would have to provide for proper drainage, have a minimum 8-year no-fade warranty. This would not include indoor or outdoor plastic or nylon carpeting. So there are several pictures that I have here that show examples where artificial turf has been applied. So this would be an example where they have decorative features and other shrubs and vines and plants that are utilized in conjunction with the artificial turf. So another example, this looks like a side yard.
Looks nice.
This is
How do they get it look
front
like
yard.
it's been mowed? That was weird. Turn it back one, because you're not mowing, but how do you get
The
that
lines.
Maybe they vacuum it.
That could be where the
wash-
pieces connect to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It costs more
This
water.
is a front yard, a relatively flat front yard with a tree. Another front yard application. Again, a couple more pictures. And this is a up-close picture of what it looks like. The artificial turf, they typically have different colored strands so that it looks a little bit more natural. There are some examples that we can show you so you can see them in person as well. The other modification or other change to the landscape guidelines that would be pertaining to our parkways. And the guidelines would be modified to allow for other types of plant materials, such as hardscaping and artificial turf, low ground cover within the parkway area in residential areas. Several property owners have already installed pavers or other material within the parkway, and that's typically done so that they could reduce their maintenance and water usage costs. So these guidelines would allow for different types of materials such as ungrouted brick or pavers, the artificial turf. It would preclude rock and gravel, poured concrete or asphalt, thorny plants or plants not suitable near the parkway or within the parkway. It would also recommend drought-resistant and low-growing plants. So these guidelines would provide for greater uniformity while allowing for less water-intensive alternatives within the parkway. And again, city approval would be required for any non-standard parkway installations. So here's a couple examples. This one where they've applied artificial turf in the parkway. And this is in Camarillo, where they've applied pavers. And again, they've put some pavers and some low-growing ground cover. And here's a kind of a different type of landscape application that they've used. So in terms of the pavers or hardscaping, the intent is to allow for materials that would allow for proper drainage, something that could be easily removed and put back together if they needed to access any utilities underneath that area. It would also preclude things such as rock and poured concrete and bark chips and things that could cause maintenance issues. So I believe that was my last slide. Again, I do have some samples if you'd like to take a look at those. We are recommending that the council adopt the 2012 Landscape and Irrigation Guidelines. If you have any questions, we are available to answer any of those, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I just want to indicate again, these are guidelines. We have a set that we've used currently in terms of procedures relative to plan checking and other things, but the updating of these we felt was helpful in use for homeowners or landscape architects. And as we indicated at our last meeting, these aren't regulatory, they are guidelines. Our next step would be to go through the zoning code where we have the actual laws relative to landscaping and such, and modify those as well, update them.
Questions?
Oh, I got a lot of questions. Okay. First, I want to say, for something that last week, 2 weeks ago, we were told, oh, there are just a few changes, there's a whole lot of red ink here.
That was my thought.
So I'm glad that we got the red line, thank you. But I have some questions, and some of the questions are on things that were already in here, but that doesn't, you bring us something and we can delve into any part of it. Just because I missed it 11 years ago doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it now. But anyway, the first one I have is on page 5 at the top, and this sentence starts, it's about parking areas. And on the previous page, it says, trees located in narrow planters along the front end of parking spaces must be placed on the stripe to avoid trunk damage. And I have no idea what the stripe is. What is the stripe?
That would be the parking space stripe between spaces. If you place the trees between two parking stalls, then you don't have you have less potential for the bumper to hit the tree as the tree grows in front of a stall or whatever. So if we need some clarification on that, we can certainly add that.
And are you talking about trunk of the car or trunk of the tree?
Trunk of the tree.
Maybe we should say tree damage.
Oh, you thought it was the trunk of the car.
Back into the
Yeah,
space.
I mean, you back in and you're going to do something to your trunk.
And may I ask, are you going from the red line version or the
Yes, everything I have is the red line version. But that was added. So it would be in the
Tree trunk.
Yeah, the tree trunk of the tree. But I think we need to clarify that one a little bit. And then this is still, I gather, well, it isn't under parking areas, but it's talking about parking areas. If you go on the same page down 2, it's talking about screening. And this is still under landscape design plan. And it says, all parking areas shall be screened from view from the street. And the reason I'm asking this is, if you start at the beginning of this document, it doesn't say this is particularly for commercial areas or for industrial areas. So in my reading it, I only have what I got, and it says all parking areas. So to me, that says if it's an area where there's a single-family home, your parking area has to be screened from the street. So if this is not for single-family residential, then I think we need to clarify where this is for, what type of area it's for.
Certainly, and it would not be for residences, I should say.
Yeah, so maybe we need to, because it doesn't ever say, that this isn't for residents. So I think that clarification needs to be made. Going over to page 6. This may be clear if it weren't a red line thing, but at the very bottom of page 6, the section is limitation of lawn areas. And
You're down
I
in the
don't,
exceptions?
yeah, and then I'm down in the exceptions, and there's an addition. It says lawn areas with a higher percentage may be used. I think that needs to be with a percentage that is higher than those listed above or something like that. Otherwise, the question is a higher percentage of what?
So describe that better.
Yeah, just tweak the wording there, I think. When you get over to page 8,
Were you there, Bob, on that one? You're okay?
1A, materials such as crushed rock, gravel. I would suggest just saying wood chips. It's really
Instead of
hard to get
redwood?
redwood chips.
And you do meet any kind of wood chips, right?
Unless there's a reason for only having redwood chips, but,
No, it was chips because they can have
This may not
propensity
be.
to run off into the gutter
Yeah.
and so forth.
Okay, so get rid of the red. Okay?
and then this next question is on this number 2, and I'm not understanding the difference. Could you explain why there's a difference in the percentage on pie-shaped lots and those standard-shaped lots, I guess they're called?
Certainly. If you look at, say, a cul-de-sac lot, it starts with a minimum of 40 foot of dimension along the public right-of-way and then flares out. So it has a smaller amount of front yard area as opposed to a rectangular lot, which starts out with a 65 or 70 foot wide width on that.
Okay, I got it. All of these things, especially the parkway landscaping, I'm over on page 9 now, but I just have a question. This is, and if we adopt an ordinance stemming from these guidelines, it won't be retroactive unless there are major changes coming in, or how does that work? Because on the parkway landscaping, some people have done things, some things have been there for probably 10, 15 years, so is on their semi-annual drive-through of the city, is code enforcement, is it anticipated code enforcement would pick these things up, these changes, and then start sending letters to people? I mean, that's what we get the most calls about.
I would hope not.
So, or if they've already been there for a number of years or already been there, are they kind of grandfathered in or what?
Yes, they would be existing non-conforming.
Okay.
And wouldn't be cited for violations.
Correct, unless they're just way out of there in terms of not having any planting or material in there. If it's just dirt, if they let the dirt die from what they have existing, or if they let the plants die and just become dirt, then that would be an issue that we would advise the homeowner to address.
And I'm thinking of some other places where I know people have installed brick, but there is some kind of grout. It's not just sand in between. In some instances, it's poured. Are we going to require people to tear those out? That's what I was thinking.
No. But if the city needed to get in there, or if a utility company,
Then they would.
they could go in there and remove that, and then they'd have to deal with repairing it back to some level. More of our effort is to make sure that parkways are also properly maintained. And so we do have a lot of people coming and say, hey, you make us maintain this, but we don't want to have to constantly spend the level of money for watering and for mowing. What other kind of options, when you're encouraging drought-tolerant plant materials, can we consider?
It may say at the beginning, I didn't go back and check, I'm on pages 10 and 11 here, but this is about model homes in new developments. And if you just look under this, it talks about the model homes have to have drought-resistant things and stuff like that. Is this only pertaining, and then number 3 says, one lot in each development must be specifically designated as a drought-tolerant model and contain a minimum of 80% low water demand plants and other xeriscape materials. No lawn may be used in this model. Is this talking only about the front yard?
And no, it would be the entire lot.
Okay, that's the way I read it. I was just wanting to make sure that that's
Correct.
for the front and back, there's no lawn.
And this has been a standard condition of residential projects for a number of years now, and they actually get points through the allotment process and so forth. The thinking here is that a lot of folks will, when they are looking at models and kind of get ideas, and then they like to kind of utilize them as well when they get their production units, or at least when we've had those kinds of things.
I just wanted to make sure it was both front and back.
That was one of my questions, if you don't mind, while we're on that one. So that has been the practice, that 80% of both front and back in one model and all of the existing?
Yes, and you'll see a sign there. This model has been, or uses drought-tolerant plant materials and have literature in the offices and such.
House in the model home.
And then once the owner buys it, they can take it out?
In terms of changing
Model
over
home,
from?
yeah.
Yes, it's not required that it stay exactly that into perpetuity.
And would that new homeowner have to come in and go through that whole process to
We're getting to that.
do their, oh, okay. That was my,
Turn over to page 14.
got that one too, okay.
Post-installation maintenance guidelines.
But this one had to do with the fact that this was required in a model home, I guess is why I
Yeah.
hit on it more.
Okay.
And then someone comes in and buys it, is that homeowner then,
Well, that's what this one's getting at. If you're going to change anything, it says you got to come in and get approval from the Director of Community Development.
And that actually is a requirement if they have, since we've adopted the state mandated landscape irrigation efficiency ordinance a couple years ago. That was a state requirement, and if they are going to modify a landscape and irrigation plan that's subject to that, they would need to come in and submit a revised plan, yes.
And that pertains to single-family residences? Or just where the homeowners association is maintaining the front yards, or commercial or industrial or something like that?
I can tell you that it would apply to all developments. I can't say whether or not it's also single-family residence. Off the top of my head, I could check on that. But it's under the ordinances that we already have in place that we're required to do by the state.
I would like to check that, and if individual single-family homes are not required to do so by state law, I would like to clarify in here that it does not apply to them.
That's a valid
Because
point.
somehow things get read and just keep going, snowball. And I just think, especially when we get into these other things, I think that if it's talking about individual single-family homes, it isn't what I had thought when we adopted these, especially the black parts, not the red parts, in 1992. It says, control all harmful diseases and pests. All chemical applications must be for state licensed advisors and applications. If that means that a homeowner cannot do chemical applications for diseases, lawn diseases and pests, I think it's going too far. That's one of the things that I hadn't caught before. And I don't see any way that we're going to be able to control that.
Nope.
And
Sorry,
then
which page are you referring to?
page 14.
Page 14.
Post-installation maintenance guidelines, B. If you're talking a golf course or, I don't want to name individual businesses in the industrial area, but some of them have huge lawn areas, well, that might be one thing. But if you're talking about individual homeowners in their own front yards controlling ants or something, then I think
Exactly.
it goes way too far, and we need to find a way to allow people to do more. I also think that if this is for individual homes, C, when we're talking about pruning, plants have to be done in a certain way. I don't mind saying they have to keep the dead wood down because it can blow and all that, but to tell a homeowner he should never shear a hedge unless it's specifically approved by somebody's plan, and that the trees have to grow to the designated size. Pruning of shrubs, they'll utilize selected pruning techniques. I think we're going way beyond.
You're
Actually, at an
controlling.
angle and not squared off. That
Yeah,
was the one that
where
really got me.
individual homeowners are gonna want us to go. That's my comment.
I guess that's the question, is this meant for the individual homeowner, going back to that model home, once it
It
becomes
doesn't say it's not.
someone's home? Because I'll guarantee you that all my plants aren't along the edge and trimmed with an angle not,
How can you control that? There's no way. We'd have to have more policemen running around.
We're gonna
As
have a lot
household
more
policemen.
letters going out twice a year, and we're gonna get a lot more phone calls, and people just aren't gonna comply.
Well, currently, we do not require landscape plans for single-family residences. We
But it
do
doesn't say
for,
that here.
and that's a valid point. Again, we could make that clearer with regard to these. Unless they do fall into one of those situations, either
If
under.
it's a planned development where the association takes care of everything, then I think this is one thing.
yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
It makes a lot more sense. But if it's just single family where they don't have an association that's taking care of that, and I would say the vast majority of existing homes in Camarillo fall under something that does not have. So if there, someplace it said that when you do a major makeover, then you start falling under all this. We need to clarify.
And also for the homeowner, what is a major makeover, too? I think there's another thing where I think the residential homeowner doesn't quite know what they're supposed to do. And if there's certain levels that they need to come in and see you on, that's fine, but it needs to be very clear.
I call it, we need to get it out of the plan, period, because people don't want to, how do they know how to cut things? A lot of times, I mean, come look at me, I trim my roses, and I don't cut them like they said sometimes, but mine just live, and they're fine, they're pretty. I don't see us getting too much into the homeowner's business unless something's gone haywire, it makes it ugly and no lawn and stuff like that. Otherwise, why are we intruding? That's my opinion.
Are you finished?
That's all I had. That's
I'm,
enough.
yeah, it was. I'm kind of wondering if this is something we need to talk about a little bit more before we adopt this.
As we indicated last week, there's not an urgency on this. If you'd like to have us respond to these questions and bring back a revised copy, we certainly have no issue with that.
Maybe I don't know if this is a study session kind of thing that we.
Sounds like we need to talk, be able to talk in study sessions instead of out here.
Because
and then bring it up.
I was a little shocked too when I saw how much red there was there. In fact, mine became orange because I think they were running out of red ink. By the
Mine
time
got
they
yellow.
Oh, so yeah, and I was, I was kind of amazed, and I came up with a lot of the same questions you had. But my bottom line is where does the difference go between a residential, individual homeowner and a commercial development or whatever, or a new development? So maybe with the thoughts you've heard tonight in mind, maybe bring it back to us, and I'll let staff decide whether you want to do it as a study session or do it.
One of the keys that she brought up, because I listened to some of those questions of mine, so let her run, she's doing a good job, is the part about what makes a major makeover. That's got to be defined and see what that means.
Especially for the individual, yeah. And then even what happens if it's, let's take where they've got a homeowners association that's maintaining a whole area. What happens if they don't prune along the edges and trim at an angle? And what's the consequences if they don't do it?
Well, we'll be talking about that when we get an ordinance.
But I think I want to know that up front before you even start here. Are we putting things in here that you can't even
Police.
police or what? I hate to say police our landscapes, but
Especially the pest control.
That's what it's called. Who's going to do anything and go around and say, you can't do that? I'm sorry, police.
Let's bring it back.
yeah, I'll have a direction and.
We can make the changes as directed and then bring it back in a study session with
Yes.
those revised draft to
I
review.
prefer that
Great.
also.
Great, thank you very much, and sorry about this, but sometimes the things you think are the simplest turn out to be the ones that take the longest. Okay, with that, we are past our 6 o'clock hour. So we have a closed session scheduled tonight. My first question would be, does our study session take the whole hour and a half, or do we have time for,
The study session's about 30 minutes. We'd like to do that first if we could.
and then we would have time for closed session. So would you like to announce that,
Yeah, I'm
please?
glad to. It's a closed session, public employee performance evaluations, authorities, Government Code Section 54957, and the titles are city manager and city attorney.
Thank you very much. So with that, we are recessed to a study session and then to a closed session, and we will be back at 7:30. I keep looking down there and not finding Dana. I miss you down there.
Oops. Too thick.
It's a long time when you're waiting for that minute. There we go. I'd like to call the meeting of the Camarillo City Council back to order. We have been in a study session and then in a closed session and have nothing to report at this point in time. The first item on our agenda this evening would be roll call.
Councilmember Kildee.
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Councilmember Wunsch.
Here.
Vice Mayor Craven.
Here.
Mayor McDonald.
I'm here, thank you. Flag salute. Mr. Kildee, would you mind leading us?
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Do we have any amendments to this evening's agenda?
We have no amendments.
Thank you. Just want to see if you wanted to add something or. All right, the next thing we have on our agenda is something that I find near and dear to my heart, and I know you all do. It's a report from the Boys and Girls Club of Camarillo, and we have our CEO, Bill Locker, here tonight to give us an update.
Hello, all.
And if you just state your name for the record, for the tape there.
My name is Bill Locker from the Boys and Girls Club of Camarillo. Hello, all. Thanks for having me. I wanted to start off by, saying I'm a little bit hurt. Bruce invited me to come and present, and then he goes out of town. So maybe I need to take my presentations up a notch. I also wanted to say, Don, that I know this will be your last presentation, but I will gladly come to your home, next year if you want me to come and just kind of keep you.
I'll come to Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, okay, you'll come. You don't want me to come to your home? A lot of people feel that way. It's not uncommon. Okay, well, again, thank you for having me. Always good to be here, and really excited to update you on some of the exciting things that we have going on. I was threatened by Steve, though, as well, that I am the only thing on the agenda, so I'm the only thing keeping you from going home. So I'm going to try and cut out about half the slides.
No, actually, that means you have as much time as you.
No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I started this morning at 7:30 at the outlets doing a presentation to the store managers there, so I'm ready as well. So let's see what we got here. The organization has three main focuses, and this is nationally as well as for the Boys and Girls Club of Camarillo. Education is our primary focus. We really are, especially with the situation with the schools currently, we are an extension of the school day, and that is very important to us and very important to the board of directors that we keep that focus and have that as one of our premier things. Secondly is teaching our kids how to be healthy. Healthy lifestyles is more encompassing than just staying healthy and active, but it also includes engaging in the arts and theater and drama and dance and being exposed to those types of things. And lastly is good character and citizenship. And we have several programs that teach that, leadership programs, giving back to the community, community service, and then programs within the club that help with anti-bullying and good behavior and those kind of things. A little bit on education. Every club member that comes to the Boys and Girls Club is required to do at least an hour of homework. We have 2 sections, K through 3rd grade and 4th through 6th, and then our teen center that all do that hour of homework. If they do not have an hour's worth of homework, we have other assignments that we give them. So it's surprising how often they find the homework that they may have forgotten when they say, oh, well, we'll give you this assignment. Oh, well, now I remember I had something that I did need to do. We have a credentialed teacher on staff to help with our programs and make sure our programs are thorough and professional and well organized. Our reading program, which is called Reading Plus, for the last year, so we don't have data for this school year yet, but 82% of the participants in that program increased their reading at least 1 grade level. When I came to the organization 3 years ago, and yeah, it's been 3 years, so time goes fast. When I came 3 years ago, what I wanted to focus on first was reading, and then we want to move into math and science. So we're now focused on the reading, and we're happy with that product. We'd like to get that a little bit higher, and we'll see how our report comes out for this year. We also started a new program this summer called the Hardy Brain Training Program. You may have heard it. Sherry Hardy lives here in Camarillo and developed this program, and she's been running pilot programs in Oxnard and in Santa Barbara, and it's been funded by the CEO of Oracle. And so she wants it to be a pilot program that'll go national. And what it does is it helps kids that improve their focus and their concentration. And we've only had small groups going through it, but the kids that have gone through it have increased their focus and concentration by 85%. So it's really helping the kids that may have that ADD or may even be on the autism spectrum, and it's helping them keep that focus, the kids that usually would get in a lot of trouble in class. So we're going to be doing that the rest of this school year, and then we may even try and pilot it in a partnership with the school district. And then our main focus is that we want all of our kids to be proficient or better on their STAR tests, and we also now are tracking some of their grades too. We kind of have a pilot group that we're looking at their grades. Healthy lifestyles, one of the big things, and it's a collaboration. You all helped fund, get the project funded, which is our bicycle repair program. We're doing 2 days a week of kids working in the bike shop with employees from Bill's Bike Shop, repairing bikes, learning how to fix their own bikes is where we started, and it'll grow into where they're maybe fixing some others, and then we might give those out to Rain Transitional Living or another homeless organization. But our first and foremost project was we surveyed a lot of the kids. Lots of them had bikes, but they had flat tires, or this was broken, or that was broken, and they didn't know how to fix it. Now we're teaching them to fix that and hoping that they'll stay active. Through our exergaming is kids playing video games, but video games with like the PlayStation Move or the Xbox something. Yeah, I don't know what it is called. Umro will not be happy with me since he's the Xbox guy. But it's actually being active and playing the video games, not just sitting with the controllers. There's a sensor that can tell where you're going and where you're moving, and you're playing volleyball and bowling and those things. So we did a pilot program with Blue Shield with that. But we also have a nutrition, physical activity programs, but we're able to drop our members' BMI of those that were overweight or obese from 9% to 6%. So we had a good impact on those kids, and we'll keep those programs going. We have our auxiliary program that does our nutrition and snack shack. I talked earlier about music, dance, and art, and those programs are all part of the healthy lifestyles. We also have lots of intramural sports. And then this year we're doing, for the first time, which I think is a good tie-in for us, because we do have our annual auction, we have our golf tournament, but now we have an event that some of our kids participate in and some of our older teens can participate in, which is a half marathon and 5K, and that'll be not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. And we're going to come close to our target of about 500 participants in that, and it's a real good course, and we've been working with all of you all to get the course and everything set up, so we're excited about that event. We talked about character and citizenship as our third goal. Passport to Manhood and Girl Smart are two of our character development programs from Boys and Girls Club National. We've had 3 sections of Toastmasters at the club, which has really helped our kids with their confidence and presentation and speaking skills. We have our Youth of the Year program, who usually comes and speaks to you. We'll be having that in January again. CHAMPS is a program that we're adopting from the Pleasant Valley School District. It's a behavior management system, and we're working with Triton Academy. Kristen Hardy there is the principal, and she's doing training with our staff. So we're doing some cross. They're going to use some of our gymnasium, and we're going to do some training with them on some of those behavior management programs. All of our kids in our Keystone and Torch Club do community service, either inside the club or they do events outside of the club. Bruce, who isn't here, which I think I already mentioned that for the record, wanted me to highlight a couple of programs. One is our transportation program, which has just been on fire, and then also our youth employment service program, which you fund at about $17,000 a year, which I'll have some good data for you on that. Transportation has been a fantastic program, a great partnership. We've increased the number of kids who have an opportunity to come to the club. We're collaborating with Roadrunner and now with the CAP program, with your CAP program, providing transportation from every school, and our participation is up 50%. It's actually up more than that because when Roadrunner took over the system, we realized that we were transporting about 80 kids and the CAT system was transporting about another 80 to 90 kids. And so now we've worked together to the two systems to kind of make it a much more streamlined and efficient process of getting kids to the club. And Tom and Rock and then Charles and Desi over at Roadrunner have been working to help us make that very smooth. The Youth Employment Service was funded by you all, focuses on youth 16 to 22, help them with their application, their resumes, their job search. We serve about 20 to 25 a month on average. May and June are much heavier, probably about twice that much, maybe even April, because kids looking for summer jobs, kids back from college doing things. But we're at about a 79 success rate of placing kids in jobs. Now, some of those are part-time and some of them are full-time, but it's what they are looking for that success rate is identified. So we're real happy with that program, and we give reports back to you all quarterly on that. Wanted to talk a little bit about the state of the organization, and I'll go through each of these items for you. Just to give you a little idea, and I don't know why I made this read right to left, but I guess just it was what it was. So this is 2004, and this is current year, actually. And so you can see that for a pretty lengthy period of time, the organization had a pretty unhealthy budget and a lot of deficits, obviously a lot in the red there. And we've been able in the last 3 years to turn that around with a lot of efficiencies, effectiveness, a little bit of reducing of staff, and we've been able to have a healthy surplus the last 2 years and would anticipate ending 2012 in another healthy surplus. Now, what that means is that we're able to invest in the facility, in staffing, in those things. A lot of times, an organization like mine, called a nonprofit organization, that's always a misnomer, and I always like to clarify that my job as the CEO of that organization is to make certain that we do make a profit, because if we're not making a profit, then we're not able to stay in business. We can't pay our bills, we can't pay our staff, we can't offer the services that we do for our children. So when we do make a profit, which they're all very small, what happens with that is then usually it rolls over the next year and helps kind of sustain us or keep us going, or it might allow us to add some more staff, which you'll see we've added more part-time staff, but we've actually decreased the full-time staff that we have. Our administrative costs are at an all-time low of 10%, maybe even a little bit lower than that because of those staffing reductions. When I got to the organization, we were at 23%. So more staff are working directly with the kids. There were 7 full-time staff when I arrived. We now have 3 full-time staff, a program person, an operations person, and then me. And then the rest of that energy goes into staff, boots on the ground when the kids are there. So we have lower ratios of staff, student to staff, or club member to staff. Working with, as I talked about a little bit earlier, Pleasant Valley School District, the Office of Education, and Channel Islands to train our staff. We also get a lot of students from Channel Island who do internships and they have a name for it, capstone projects and those kind of things. We have a great relationship with Pilar and Jane Sweetland and Dr. Rush out there at the university. We're also looking at another project to collaborate locally on some mental health support for our club members. A lot of our club members come from single-family homes or from homes that there may be some abuse or neglect and those things. So we have a lot of children who have some personal challenges. And I'm looking at a model that's been used before, but also met with Martha Fang and talked about how we maybe can be able to provide some mental health services for our kids too, just to help them in those areas when those kind of things come up. So my vision when I got here was I really wanted to focus on education, and then secondly, I wanted to have mental health services for the kids that were challenged. So we're hoping to meet those goals within 5 years. Here's the crazy part, and this has been a heck of a summer and school year. Our summer program was up about, our attendance was up about 45%. So we were probably at 70 or so, and don't do the math on me. Where is the math guy? Okay, the one that laughed when I said don't do the math. We were at 70 or 80 last year, and we were at about 110, 120 this year for our summer program. So summer program works from 7:30 in the morning till 7:30 at night. So the kids aren't there that whole time. Some of them are, but they're there the bulk of that time. And then now our after-school program, we're seeing attendance up already about 15%, and it's going up a little bit more. And with the transportation program and kind of consolidating and improving that, it may even go up more. Now, I attribute that, this was supposed to say me. Apparently, my staff changed that slide. Yeah, the jokes don't get any funnier as we go. Sorry about that. So attributed, obviously, to the transportation program, kids are able to access the club more easily. We've been doing some improved marketing. I do think that we have improved the programming a lot, and I think we've improved the reputation of the organization in the past 3 years. So I think all of those things attribute to why we're having more kids coming. But what's important to note is that it's you all, the city, some of the people here in this room, and the community in general that supports the Boys and Girls Club, because we only charge $5 a month to come to the club. So it's a model that is you all and the community have an after-school programming, and that's why it's successful. We talked a little bit about the infrastructure. We got a building that was built in 1978, just about the same time as the old library, I think. I think close to. And so there's a lot of work that needed to be done on it. We've done a lot of things gradually. We fortunately had a benefactor in the name of George Kroll, who helped us with many things, replacing some air conditioning units, painting the exterior, getting the gym floor done. We also had a partnership with Solar World and West Coast Power Solutions, who put our solar panels up 2 years ago, year and a half ago?
2 years.
2 years ago. All right, I'm glad somebody here knows.
I was on the roof.
There you go. That is now accounting for about 20% of our electrical use. So though we haven't seen a real cost savings, what we have seen is that the increases in electrical use we haven't been impacted by, because that 20% has actually saved us that. We've done a lot of improvements to the gymnasium and to the auditorium. We talked about the bike shop already. We're doing some improvements to the kitchen, and we're looking at improving the member entrance to make it more accessible. One of the things that I believe, and also the board of directors believes, is that because we are community supported, the facility is really there for the community. So we have most of the youth organizations that use the facility at some point, the CYBA, some of the local churches, Camarillo Pony Baseball uses it for signups, the Cosmos Track is coming and using it for signups, both of the football teams come, and we give that either away for free or for a really discounted price depending on the amount of use, because of the model of keeping it in the community, and that the facility is really an extension of the community's facilities. Couldn't do it without these people. Obviously, I didn't put this slide in just because a couple of them here are in the building, but really, we've added some new board members here recently. Catherine Wells, who is David Edsel's daughter and has joined his law firm. Rayanne Michaels, the new superintendent school district, has joined the board. And then we have Linda Frost-Smith, the general manager of the outlets, are a couple of the people that have just recently joined. Paul Barchi is our current chair, and David Tennyson will be taking over the chair in January for 2013 and 14. Hopefully we told him it was 2 years. If we didn't, we'll tell him eventually. And then you can see, obviously, a lot of other great members of the community that are part of that board of directors, and can never thank them enough for all of their time and their volunteer energy that keeps the organization moving forward. We also have an advisory board that meets a couple times a month, and many of those are people that were either past board members or might be looking at transitioning into the full board, but don't have the time commitment maybe available right away. Obviously, I always want to hit on areas of need. If I'm not asking for money or begging for something, it's just I don't quite feel right and can't sleep at night. So obviously, operations is a big part. Our budget's about $900,000 a year. 500 or so thousand of that is salary costs, because we have those 320 some odd kids that are there. When you break it down, it's a matter of only a couple dollars an hour per kid over the course of the year. So we're not even getting what the babysitter gets. So we're doing it on a very efficient and effective amount of money. We have obviously a lot of program costs for supplies and equipments for the kids. Maintaining the 31,000 square foot building is a lot of work. And we look at always having ongoing partnerships with individuals, corporations, service organizations, and government to help us make that happen. This is the last slide. Sometimes people clap for the last slide. It's okay. Our goals for 2013, really continuing to build upon